What I'm about to show you is going to change the way you look at your kitchen forever. Because somewhere in your house right now, maybe in your pantry, maybe in your refrigerator, maybe sitting right there on your counter, are foods that can either help your liver unload fat and calm inflammation, or quietly push it one step closer to scarring, exhaustion, and damage you may not feel until it's already advanced. And when I reveal food number one, the one that surprises almost everyone, you're going to understand why some seniors improve their liver numbers without buying a single detox product. I'm Dr. Michael Joel, and after more than 2 decades caring for older adults, I need to tell you something very plainly. Your liver does not need a fancy cleanse. It does not need a celebrity powder. It does not need a 7-day juice kit shipped to your front porch. What it needs, more than anything, is less burden and better fuel. So please subscribe to this channel, ring the bell, and join our family for clear, life-saving health guidance every week. And here's what worries me. Right now, a senior in Florida is drinking a so-called liver detox shake loaded with sugar, believing they're healing themselves. Somewhere in Ohio, another senior is skipping breakfast, taking supplements on an empty stomach, and wondering why their liver enzymes keep rising. And somewhere in Arizona, someone is being told they have fatty liver, and they think that means the damage is permanent. It is not always permanent. That is the good news. Your liver is one of the few organs in your body that can, under the right conditions, recover remarkably well. But before I show you food number 10, you need to understand the truth that changes everything. When people say they want to clean out the liver, what they usually mean is this. They want to lower liver fat, reduce inflammation, support the body's natural filtering systems, and stop the slow march toward fibrosis. That is what truly matters. Not a dramatic bathroom cleanse. Not a week of celery juice. Real healing happens when the liver is given a break from sugar overload, processed food, excess alcohol, and constant metabolic stress, while being fed foods that actually support its chemistry. Let me tell you about Frank first, because his story is going to reveal food number 10, and it's a food many people dismiss because it looks too ordinary to matter. Frank was 72, living outside Columbus, retired from the auto industry, a good man who believed breakfast had to be quick. Most mornings he poured a bowl of sweet cereal, added orange juice, and thought he was doing something light and harmless. But his waistline kept growing, his energy kept dropping, and at his annual physical, his doctor said 4 words that scared him to the bone. "Your liver looks fatty." Frank was stunned, because he barely drank. Food number 10 is oatmeal, especially plain old-fashioned oats or steel-cut oats. And I know that doesn't sound dramatic. I know it doesn't sound like a miracle. But that's exactly why people miss it. Oatmeal helps because it brings something your liver desperately needs and most American diets are starving for. Fiber. Not powdered fiber in a plastic tub. Real food fiber. The kind that slows the rise of blood sugar, helps reduce overeating, supports healthy bowel movements, and makes it harder for excess calories and sugar to flood the system all at once. And when that flood slows down, the liver doesn't have to keep turning extra fuel into fat. Frank changed one meal, just one. Instead of sugary cereal and juice, he started having a bowl of oatmeal with cinnamon and a handful of blueberries. Some days he added chopped walnuts. Some days plain Greek yogurt on the side. Within a few months, his afternoon crashes eased up, his weight started drifting down, and his repeat labs looked better. Not perfect, but better. That's the word I want you to hold on to in this video. Better. Liver healing is often not dramatic at first. It is steady, quiet, gradual, and the foods that help most are usually the ones that make your metabolism less chaotic from morning to night. Now, here's what matters with oatmeal. Instant packets covered in brown sugar? Not what I'm talking about. Dessert oatmeal with syrup, flavored creamers, and candy-like toppings? No. That turns a helpful breakfast into a blood sugar ambush. What your liver wants is simple. Plain oats, cooked in water or unsweetened milk, with maybe cinnamon, berries, walnuts, or a spoon of natural peanut butter, if your portions stay reasonable. And this leads us to food number 9, Because once you fix breakfast, the next thing that usually sabotages the liver is dessert. And the seniors who fix that one habit often see changes faster than they expected. Food number 9 is berries. Blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, blackberries. And let me tell you about Linda from Tampa because her story is one I see over and over again. Linda was 69, a grandmother of 5, and every single evening after dinner she told herself she had just a little sweet tooth. A scoop of ice cream, 2 cookies, sometimes pie left over from church potluck. Harmless, she thought. Small. Deserved. But small nightly habits have a way of becoming a liver problem when they happen, 365 days a year. Her ultrasound showed fat in the liver, and she looked at me and said, "Doctor, I don't even eat that badly." Berries are powerful because they help satisfy that sweet craving without delivering the kind of concentrated sugar load that ultra-processed desserts do. They bring fiber. They bring color. They bring compounds that help your body deal with oxidative stress and inflammation. That matters because a fatty liver is not just a storage problem, it's an irritation problem. The liver gets overwhelmed, fat accumulates, inflammatory signals rise, and over time the tissue becomes vulnerable. A bowl of berries doesn't magically scrub the liver clean, but it does help change the internal environment from one that promotes damage to one that promotes repair. Linda made a simple trade. She stopped ending every night with packaged sweets and started keeping berries in the refrigerator where the cookies used to be. Some nights she had them with a spoonful of plain yogurt. Some nights just by themselves. Was it glamorous? No. Was it enough by itself? Also no. But it was a major lever. Because when you stop hammering the liver with daily sugar spikes, the organ finally gets room to breathe. And this takes us to food number 8. Because the next thing your liver loves is a food group. Many older Americans still don't eat often enough. Especially if they grew up thinking dinner had to revolve around meat. Food number 8 is beans and lentils. Black beans, navy beans, pinto beans, chickpeas, lentils. Let me tell you about Marvin in San Antonio. Marvin was 74 and proud of the fact that he ate plenty of protein, but his idea of protein was deli meat, cheeseburgers, and sausage with eggs. He was tired all the time, constantly hungry, and his triglycerides were climbing. His liver wasn't just dealing with excess calories, it was dealing with the kind of eating pattern that keeps insulin high, weight stubborn, and inflammation smoldering. When people think liver trouble, they usually think alcohol. But very often, the bigger culprit is a lifetime of metabolic overload. Beans and lentils help because they are one of the best combinations of fiber and steady nourishment you can put on a plate. They digest slowly. They fill you up. They help replace ultra-processed starches and greasy meats that push liver fat in the wrong direction. And for seniors, they can be especially helpful because they're affordable, easy to keep on hand, and extremely versatile. Add them to soup, chili, salads, or a simple bowl with vegetables and olive oil. When meals become more fiber-rich and less blood sugar chaotic, the liver has a much better chance to stop storing so much excess energy as fat and start stabilizing. Marvin didn't become vegetarian. He didn't need to. He just stopped making every meal a meat and bread event. He added bean soup at lunch twice a week, chili with extra beans and lentils as a side dish instead of fries. Over time, he lost enough weight that his belt changed notches, and that mattered more than he realized. Because one of the strongest ways to improve fatty liver is to reduce the metabolic burden that comes with abdominal weight gain. And the foods that help most are often the ones that make you feel full before you overeat. Now let's go to food number 7, because this one sits in produce aisles across America and still gets ignored. Food number 7 is leafy greens. Spinach, romaine, kale, collards, arugula, mixed greens. And yes, I can already hear someone saying, "Doctor, I am not eating rabbit food." Carol from Phoenix said the exact same thing. She was 71, cared for her husband, drove her grandkids to school, and lived on convenience. Sandwiches, crackers, frozen dinners. Her vegetables were usually whatever came on a burger. When her doctor warned her about blood sugar and liver fat in the same appointment, she panicked. Because suddenly it wasn't just about weight, just It was about what might happen next. Diabetes, fatigue, more medication, maybe worse. And that fear was justified. Leafy greens matter because they help shift the entire meal. People think the greens themselves are the whole story, but the bigger story is what happens when you build a plate around them. Suddenly, there's less room for French fries, buttery rolls, and sugary sides. Greens also bring nutrients and plant compounds your body uses in countless protective processes, including those related to inflammation and normal blood handling. Your liver is deeply involved in clotting factors, nutrient processing, and detoxification chemistry. So when greens become regular instead of occasional, you're not just eating salad. You're changing the terrain your liver lives in, one forkful at a time. Carol started small. A handful of spinach into scrambled eggs, a side salad with lunch, collard greens with Sunday dinner instead of mac and cheese every week. That was enough to get momentum started, and momentum matters more than perfection. Most seniors don't need a perfect liver diet by Monday morning. They need 5 or 6 repeatable swaps that take pressure off the organ. And now we come to food number 6, because this one is colorful, old-fashioned, and deeply underrated in the United States. Some people loved it growing up. Some people haven't touched it in 30 years, but when used the right way, it can support the kind of anti-inflammatory eating pattern your liver wants. Food number 6 is beets. Let me tell you about Walter from Des Moines. Walter was 76, a retired mail carrier, and the only time he saw beets was on the holiday table next to the ham. He never considered them a health food. To him, they were just a bright red side dish his mother used to make. But after an ultrasound showed fatty liver, his daughter started helping with groceries, and beets came back into his life. Roasted beets, beet slices in salads. Beet, sometimes blended into a vegetable mix. Nothing magical happened overnight. But something important did happen, and it points to why this food made my list. Beets bring plant pigments and antioxidant compounds that fit beautifully into a liver-supportive diet. Again, I want to be careful here. Beets are not a scrub brush for the liver. They do not flush toxins out like a drain cleaner, but they are part of the group of colorful plant foods that help calm the inflammatory environment that often accompanies liver fat, insulin resistance, and excess processed food intake. And when seniors start eating more deeply colored vegetables, they usually also start eating less of the beige food pattern that got them into trouble in the first place. That pattern shift is often where the healing begins. Walter started using roasted beets in place of hash browns at brunch a couple of days a week. Then he added them to salads with a little olive oil and vinegar. The result wasn't just more beets. The result was fewer fried sides, fewer processed snacks, fewer "I'll just grab something quick" meals that kept his liver under constant assault. And this leads us to food number 5. Because if there is one snack that can either help your liver or hurt it depending on what you choose, it's the thing you reach for at 3 in the afternoon when you're tired, bored, or watching television. And not really hungry at all. Food number 5 is walnuts, and honestly, other nuts can be useful too, but walnuts deserve special attention. Diane from Pittsburgh learned this the hard way. Diane was 68, and every afternoon she parked herself in front of cable news with a sleeve of crackers, processed cheese spread, and something sweet nearby, just in case. By dinner, she wasn't hungry enough for real food, so dinner became random picking and nibbling. Her liver wasn't getting attacked by one giant meal. It was getting nickeled and dimed all day long by processed carbohydrates and salty, fatty snack food. That is how many fatty livers are built. Quietly and without drama. Walnuts help because they deliver satisfying fat, some fiber, and nutrients that fit into a Mediterranean-style eating pattern. The kind of pattern consistently linked with better metabolic and liver health. They help with replacement. That word matters. A small handful of walnuts doesn't help because walnuts are enchanted. They help because they can take the place of chips, crackers, pastries, or candy that drive the body in a worse direction. And walnuts pair beautifully with oatmeal, berries, yogurt, or salads, which means they often improve several habits at once. That's what you want in liver recovery. Not isolated hacks, but stacked improvements that reinforce each other. Diane replaced her cracker and cheese afternoons with walnuts and berries a few times a week. Not every day, a few times. And right there, you can see why this works. We are not asking for sainthood. We are asking for enough consistency that the liver stops getting ambushed. If you eat a handful of nuts the way some people eat potato chips, that's not helping. Portion matters. But when walnuts are used intentionally, they can become one of the smartest, senior-friendly snacks in the house. Now, food number 4 is where this list starts getting powerful in a serious clinical way, because this one shows up again and again in liver research. Food number 4 is fatty fish. Salmon, sardines, trout, herring. Let me tell you about George from Charleston, South Carolina. George thought fish meant Friday dinner during Lent and not much else. The rest of the year he ate burgers, deli sandwiches, and takeout chicken. His cardiologist kept talking to him about triglycerides. His primary doctor kept talking to him about weight. And then his liver numbers began creeping up too. That's how these problems travel together. Heart trouble, insulin resistance, abdominal weight, liver fat. They are cousins. And when one starts shouting, the others are usually already in the room. Fatty fish matter because they bring omega-3 fats, and those fats are associated with better metabolic balance and less liver fat burden. Compared with the standard American pattern, heavy in fried food, processed meat, and seed oil-soaked junk. Your liver is an organ of traffic control. It constantly decides what to store, what to package, what to burn, what to send out. When the bloodstream keeps delivering the wrong combination of excess calories and inflammatory fuel, traffic backs up. Fat accumulates. But when seniors replace even a few meals per week with salmon or sardines, the system gets a different message. It gets support instead of overload, and that difference adds up. George started with canned sardines because they were cheap and easy. Then his daughter taught him how to bake salmon with lemon and pepper. No breading, no deep fryer, no sugary glaze. Just simple fish with vegetables and olive oil. And within a few months, his whole meal pattern looked different. More protein that satisfied him, fewer late-night snacks, less drive-through food. That's the hidden gift of liver-friendly foods. They often pull the rest of your eating pattern into alignment without you forcing it. And now we reach food number 3, which is less about a single dish and more about what's happening in your skillet, on your salad, and all through your day. Food number 3 is extra virgin olive oil. Eleanor in Newark, New Jersey thought she was eating normal American food, which meant toast with butter, vegetables cooked in margarine, pan-fried cutlets, and store-bought dressings, thick with sugar and cheap oils. When her doctor told her to improve her liver health, she immediately asked which supplement to buy. That is such a common response. People want the bottle. They want the capsule. They want the cleanse. But often the liver doesn't need an exotic product. It needs you to stop frying everything in the wrong stuff and coating every meal in ingredients that work against you. And that starts with the oil. Extra virgin olive oil is valuable because it fits into one of the most consistently helpful eating patterns for fatty liver and metabolic health. The Mediterranean-style pattern. It gives you a healthier fat source to replace butter-heavy, processed, or hydrogenated options, and that replacement matters. When olive oil shows up with vegetables, beans, fish, or salad, the entire meal usually becomes more balanced. Seniors who use olive oil thoughtfully often end up eating more whole foods almost by accident. That's why I like it. It changes behavior at the level of the kitchen. And kitchen behavior, not supplement marketing, is what usually decides whether the liver gets relief. Eleanor started drizzling olive oil on roasted vegetables, using it in salad dressing, and brushing it lightly on fish instead of pan-frying everything in butter. She didn't drown food in it. That's important. Olive oil is helpful, but more is not always better. If you turn healthy fat into a calorie flood, the liver still loses. But used wisely, it helps shift the pattern. It makes whole foods taste better, which means seniors are more likely to actually keep eating them. And now we come to food number 2. And I need you to stay with me because this is where the list becomes really interesting. Because food number 2 helps your liver's own detox machinery do its job more smoothly. Food number 2 is broccoli and its cruciferous cousins, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower. Let me tell you about Ron from Indianapolis. Ron was 73, and if broccoli showed up on his plate, he treated it like decoration. He'd push it aside and go straight for the mashed potatoes. But after a scan showed fat in his liver, his granddaughter started cooking for him twice a week. One night she roasted broccoli until the edges got crispy, added olive oil and garlic, and something changed. For the first time, it wasn't punishment food. It actually tasted good. And that matters, because no liver plan works if you hate every bite. Cruciferous vegetables are special because they contain compounds your body uses in detoxification pathways. This is where people get confused. They hear the word detox and imagine a dramatic purge. That's not what's happening. Your liver already has complex enzyme systems working day and night to process waste, hormones, medications, and byproducts of metabolism. Foods like broccoli don't replace the liver. They support normal biochemical pathways the liver already runs. That is a very different claim, and it's the truthful one. Add in fiber, lower calorie density, and the way these vegetables crowd out heavier sides. And you can see why they're so valuable. Ron started eating broccoli twice a week, then Brussels sprouts, then cabbage sautéed lightly with onions. The more he ate those foods, the less room there was for fries, onion rings, and giant baked potatoes loaded with sour cream. That's the secret hiding inside almost every food on this list. It is not just what the food adds, it is what the food replaces. And now we're here. Food number 1. The most surprising liver-supportive item on this entire list. The one seniors often think they should avoid. The one many people are already drinking, but in the wrong form. Are you ready? Here it is. Food number 1 is black coffee. I know, that shocks people. Let me tell you about Betty from Mesa, Arizona. Betty was 70, and after hearing mixed messages for years, she stopped drinking coffee because she thought it was bad for her heart, bad for her sleep, bad for everything. She switched to sweet bottled smoothies and fruit juice because they looked healthier. Then her blood sugar climbed, her weight climbed, and her liver enzymes climbed with them. When I asked what she drank most mornings, she said orange juice and a wellness drink from the refrigerated section at the grocery store. That's when the whole picture came into focus. She had given up one helpful habit, and replaced it with liquid sugar. Coffee keeps showing up in liver research in a way that is hard to ignore. Unsweetened coffee has been associated with better liver enzyme patterns, less progression of fatty liver, lower risk of scarring, and even less risk of severe liver outcomes over time. That does not mean coffee is magic. It means coffee appears to contain compounds that the liver likes, especially when the drink is not turned into dessert. The key phrase is this: black coffee, or coffee with very little added burden. Not a 500-calorie coffee milkshake. Not a caramel syrup bomb. Those drinks do not help your liver. They punish it, while pretending to be a treat. Now let me be careful, because older adults deserve nuance, not hype. If coffee gives you palpitations, shakes, reflux, anxiety, or insomnia, don't force it. If your doctor has told you to limit caffeine, listen. If you take medications that don't mix well with stimulants, ask first. Decaf may still be a reasonable option for some people, but for many seniors, plain coffee in the morning can be far better for the liver than juice, soda, sweet tea, or those healthy bottled drinks that dump sugar into the bloodstream before breakfast is even over. Betty went back to coffee, unsweetened, and cut the juice habit. And that one change mattered more than she ever expected. But here's where people ruin the benefit. They hear coffee is good for the liver, and then they pour in flavored creamer, sugar, whipped topping, and syrup until it becomes cake in a mug. That's not liver support, that's confusion. The same thing happens with every food on this list. Oatmeal becomes a dessert bowl. Berries get drowned in sugar glaze. Salmon gets breaded and deep fried. Olive oil becomes an excuse to eat half a loaf of bread. Walnuts turn into honey-roasted candy clusters. So the goal is not just choosing the right food, it's choosing the right form. And that, is where seniors quietly win or lose. Let me pull this together for you in a way that is practical. If you want to clean out your liver in the real sense, the medically honest sense, start building your week around these anchors. Oatmeal in the morning instead of sugary cereal. berries instead of dessert, beans or lentils instead of processed sides, leafy greens most days, beets sometimes, walnuts as a smart snack, salmon or sardines a few times a week, extra virgin olive oil in the kitchen, broccoli or cabbage regularly, and black coffee if your body tolerates it. That pattern does something cleanse products never do. It changes the daily workload placed on the liver, meal after meal after meal. And let me tell you something even more important. These foods work best when they are protecting your liver from something worse. That means less soda, less sweet tea, less fruit juice, less ultra-processed cereal, less fast food, less deep-fried takeout, less late-night ice cream therapy, less mindless snacking in front of the television, because you cannot out-blueberry a daily donut habit. You cannot out-broccoli a six-pack of soda. You cannot out-coffee a drive-through breakfast sandwich and hash browns every morning. The liver is generous. It is forgiving. But it is not stupid. And it knows the difference between real help and nutritional theater. This is why so many seniors get frustrated. They add one healthy food and expect a miracle while keeping the rest of the pattern exactly the same. Then they say, "Doctor, it didn't work." But the liver doesn't respond to token gestures. It responds to patterns. It notices what happens at breakfast, what happens between meals, what you drink, how late you eat, whether you keep spiking insulin, whether you keep flooding it with excess fructose and calories. Real liver healing often begins when you stop searching for the one superfood and start building a food environment that the liver can finally relax inside. That is the turning point, and most people miss it. Now, before we finish, I need to say something for those of you who have been told you already have fatty liver, elevated liver enzymes, or early fibrosis. Do not panic, but do not shrug it off either. Fatty liver can sit quietly for years while the damage slowly advances. That's why what you do next matters. Ask your doctor what your actual numbers are. Ask whether you need follow-up labs or imaging. Ask about alcohol. Ask about diabetes. Ask about medications. Ask whether weight loss would help in your specific case. These foods are powerful tools, but they are not a replacement for understanding what stage you are actually in.